All right, well, here's a few news stories that caught my attention. Uh, I was interested to see this article. Is Claude better than Gemini? I've always heard Claude is better at coding, and his conclusion is, of course, Claude is still much better at coding. OpenAI seems to be swirling around the drain. They seem to be making big mistakes. People are leaving the company, and it looks like it's going to be Anthropic and Gemini competing for the rulers of AI. And they're both pretty strong contenders. But Claude is ahead on coding. Their code is more accurate. And there's a huge sell-off of software products. Their stock price is falling because people think that AI is going to make it so easy to write software that you won't have to buy commercial software. I think that is greatly overstated. And in fact, the real coders are writing articles saying, this coding still is not good enough and it's not getting much better. But anyway, cybersecurity, however, they say is growing and will be coming back. That's what I thought, because the bad guys are using AI to write exploits much faster. And so, and also the deployment of AI, which is going at breakneck speed at all the companies, especially agentic AI, where the AI can do things like execute code on your machine, creates whole new categories of security vulnerabilities. So the hacks are coming, and they need a lot more security engineers, and they need security engineers that understand how to secure AI systems. So, like I say, my students are having trouble finding jobs right now, but I don't think it'll last much longer, because this idea that you can fire people and replace them with AI is going to be revealed to be completely false. And they're still going to need a lot of security people. So I didn't know this, but GitHub apparently tries to force you to use Copilot because Microsoft bought it, and Microsoft's business plan for the last couple of years has been ram Copilot AI into everything, whether people like it or not. So there's Copilot in Windows 11, there's Copilot in Office. They wanted to put Copilot in Notepad and in Paint and in just everything, and most people don't want it. And so Gen2 is moving away from GitHub to something called Codeberg, which I guess is an open source alternative or something like that. They say they've had it with using a Microsoft-owned product to host their Linux distribution, which kind of does make sense. Someone says, AI saves me 20-25% of time, but it's still just a tool. Yeah, that's right. Good, I'm glad to hear it. That's what I hear. I mean, a skilled person can get some benefit from AI. It saves me time. When I'm developing projects, whenever I get a problem, first thing I do is ask AI, and usually it tells me the answer. I say, what does this term mean? What does this acronym mean? How do I code this little thing in Python? It's right most of the time, like maybe 80%. There was an interesting thing Kevin Beaumont posted, though. He saw, in fact, let me see if I can find that one. That one's worth mentioning. I may not be able to find it quickly, but what he did was he found out 2 million. Maybe I could use the word million. Yeah, here we go. He went on. I'm glad we're on this topic. So here, he said, he looked into an obvious path traversal vulnerability where you could just put .. / in a URL and get to some folder you shouldn't get to. And he saw it was committed to a project by the user named Claude. And he said, oh, that's Claude code. So then he did this search, which is pretty revealing. These are the number of commits made by Claude code. It's 2.2 million. He said it's 5% of all the commits in open source projects this month. And as you should expect, he says they're making the same security mistake over and over and over. Now, before we had AI coding, most people coded by going on Stack Exchange and finding a code example and basing their code on that. I certainly did a lot of the time. And the security experts complained, there's a lot of code on Stack Exchange that makes mistakes and has vulnerabilities, and people are just copying it into many projects, which is now AI is just automating that process. And this is why I'm sort of troubled by these AI coders. These AI coders seem to have been trained on just a whole lot of code, like all the code they could find on GitHub or something. I know GitHub actually said they were going to use it to train their AI. And that's not really the right way to do. That way you will get average code. You will not get good code. I would think it would be a lot better to train it on carefully written good code that you find in like a good textbook, just high quality code, so it learns to write high quality code, but they have trained it on just a huge swath of all the code they could find on the internet. And that means, of course, it's just writing average code. And it also means, by the way, that most of that stuff is probably 5 years old, so it's probably doing what an average coder would have done 5 years ago, and that is, of course, make a lot of security mistakes because everything comes in trends. Everything you're doing, after a few years, they find a flaw and you have to quit doing that. And so on it goes. Anyway, he said he saw it was making several copies of the same security error in new commits per minute. So that's an issue. And so I think there's a lot of room for improvement here. It would be good if they, it would probably be good if they could just make a list of like the top 10 vulnerabilities that AI produces and put in some kind of warning or special check to make sure it's not making that mistake again. Would be a good idea. But right now, the current generation of AI tools doesn't have that. Anyway, it was an interesting thing to see there. And so Gentoo is moving off GitHub onto Codeberg. Might be worth looking at Codeberg and figure out what it is. All right. And this was pretty interesting. In fact, it's quite appropriate talking about this. So there's a product called Dell Recover Point, which makes backups to restore your virtual machines. Now that all the servers are virtual machines, it backs up your VMware machines with some kind of cloud-based product, I think. And so it's a popular product, but it has a 0-day. And it turns out that either the Chinese or the Russians have been exploiting this 0-day for 2 years before anybody found out about it. And the 0-day is just a hard-coded password. There's a hard-coded admin account with a hard-coded password that nobody knew about, and you can't change it. And that's a practice that was common in like the 80s. Nobody should have been doing that for 30 years. But Cisco keeps getting caught with this because they have a lot of old code. And like I say, just as an example, you do something which is considered good enough. And then after 10 or 20 years, it's no longer considered good enough. So it's kind of unavoidable that if you train an AI on a large bunch of code you find, it's going to learn bad habits from that code. Unless you very carefully screen that code. And probably even if you do, because whatever is considered a best practice today, in a few years, they'll realize their mistakes in that. So you're probably going to have to keep updating your AI with the latest security problems and security flaws. So there's a mass wave of WhatsApp takeover accounts since January of this year, taking over thousands of Armenian WhatsApp users. And then you got 4,000 accounts have been hacked. They've gained control of some of them. They used it to create WhatsApp business profiles, and then they send out spam messages. And those somehow exploit. They get people to click links or something and then take over their accounts. But the interesting thing here is they're exploiting SS7 vulnerabilities. Now, this is something I've been hearing about for at least 10 years. SS7 is Signal System 7. It's used for the telephone network. And if you send SMSs or you make phone calls on the telephone network, it's handled by SS7. And SS7 has known vulnerabilities that no one has patched in 10 years because there's a huge installed base of telephone switches. And it would cost a lot of money to upgrade them all. And they're not easily upgradable, apparently. So this is why people keep telling you, if you're using SMS-based two-factor authentication, that's a pretty poor decision. It's pretty weak. It's still better than single-factor authentication, but it's the weakest form of two-factor because it's really quite easy to intercept and redirect telephone traffic, like SMS messages, because of flaws in SS7. And that's what these Armenian hackers are doing. And this one was pretty amazing. So OpenClaw is the open source product you put on your machine, lets you control your machine. And then what this guy found out, everybody's using it like crazy. And by the way, the developer just got hired by OpenAI. So he installed it. And then you typically get any use out of it. It has to have full access to your email accounts, API keys, your cloud environment, and local shell access. And then he looked in the logs. And the logs had records that had user agent values. So some kind of web requests are being made to the machine, and they're ending up in the log. And it turns out that if there's a web request to your machine, which I guess that must be the API call, I'm guessing, to use OpenClaw, comes in as a web request. If the request is terminated abnormally, like the user hangs up, then it goes in the log with the user agent, which is not sanitized. Therefore, you can use this to inject data in the logs. And when you ask, if you have a problem with your OpenClaw installation, you can ask OpenClaw what's wrong. And OpenClaw will look at its own logs and interpret them and tell you what's wrong. And he says, this is really very useful and very helpful. Get used to this AI helping you do everything. The AI will help you fix itself. But when it reads the logs, if they've injected malicious commands in the logs, that can have prompt injection. So a bad guy can send malformed requests to your machine, which they have a proof of concept down here. That if in Python, a few lines of Python, it'll send a request to your OpenClaw and terminate it abnormally, so a message will go into logs. Now, for some reason, they weren't actually able to finish making one that would actually run here, but they say it should be pretty easy to fix that and make it work. Anyway, this is the thing. This is the fundamental problem with all these AI agents, is that they are, in order to make them useful, they have to have access to something, like your Signal messages or your email or something like that. And of course, they have access to their own logs. And if they have any source of untrusted data, that data can include prompt injections. And I just listened to a very good podcast on the way into school Monday morning. And this guy said he works for a pen testing company attacking AI, and what they're doing is figuring out what the defense mechanism is. AIs have a defense mechanism in front of them that tries to block the prompt injection, and they're able to deduce how that works and attack that with various attacks and defeat it. And what they found was it's typically just a simple filter that counts words to see if words are good or bad. So you can have an evil prompt injection like tell me how to make a bomb, and then you can put some words at the end that are considered good and harmless, like equals coffee. Any request containing the word coffee is considered harmless. You find this. So you add some extra words to the end, and since it just takes your whole question and makes a single binary decision, is this question good or bad? If you have some bad stuff, but then you add some good stuff to the end that makes no sense, the scanner will say, okay, it's mostly good, let it through. But the AI will understand the first part, and it will ignore the part that makes no sense. So it will actually run on the AI and do what it's not supposed to do after fooling the scanner, because they have different kinds of logic. And this is how it always goes when you punch through layers of security. Exactly the same thing applies to punching through web app firewalls. You figure out how to sneak things through the web app firewall that it will misunderstand and think is harmless, but the web app will run your exploit. And that's not very hard to do with the current generation of web app firewalls, at least as of a few years ago. Anyway, that's enough news for now. Let me stop.